What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to MLB Swing for the Fences here on the Run Pure Sports YouTube channel. It is Sunday morning, June 29th, and joined as usual on Sunday morning by the legend himself, Third and Schlong. Bryce, how you doing on this Sunday morning?
Couldn't be better. Just ready for another Sunday of baseball. You know, we're kind of in the depth of the sports season, or breadth of it. Had a nice MMA card last night. That was one of the better cards I can remember. That Joshua Van fight was unbelievably good. Yeah,
I got almost everything right except for the two title fights, which I was on the wrong side of both of those.
Yeah, same here. I had the dogs.
It was looking good and fell apart in a hurry, but it was an okay night. Anyway, as you mentioned, 11 games to talk about. Lock coming up here in 90 minutes, so we'll try to get out of here within an hour and finalize those lineups, get over to Run Pure Sports, get the cores in, all that good stuff. Bryce got a lot to talk about, though, with 11 games, so we'll jump right into it without further ado. And we start off in Atlanta, Philadelphia, and the Braves division rival game here in a fun one. Two good pitchers going at it. Lefty Ranger Suarez going for the Phillies has been really, really good. The game log watchers among us would be impressed by Ranger Suarez. It's been pretty much nothing but gems from Suarez. I don't know if I'm quite buying it with him, if he's a $9,800 pitcher, but he certainly pitched like it at least recently. And then Spencer Strider on the other side, making his, 10th start or something, also back from injury, and has looked really good the last three starts. Two of which, actually the last two, came against the Mets, a tough matchup for him. So Strider's looked awesome. Again, I guess kind of like Suarez, I'm a little skeptical that, he's as back as people seem to think. But again, has pitched well, has missed bats recently. Strider, Suarez, Phillies, and Braves, fun one to kick off this slate. Schlong, where are you at on this game?
I'm pretty in on the pitchers here. It's kind of a tough pitching slate in general, like when you're looking at it. So, I think Strider is one of the better options, if not the best here. I think, he does have propensity to blow up here. Like I could see like playing like leverage Philly stacks as well as kind of a spot where, you hope to either get really good Spencer Strider or really bad Spencer Strider, where he's walking a lot of guys, giving up stolen bases, and, he is susceptible to long ball at times. So I don't hate that as a leverage stack. Right now, I have Strider barely as my highest owned pitcher on the slate. Actually, he's second highest for me, but I do think that he's a very good option here. Then on the other side, I like Ranger Suarez some. I don't like him as much as Strider. Kind of like a 5 to 10% type of play for me here on the slate. And then I would actually rather attack Philly bats than Atlanta bats, just because you're getting a lot of leverage on Strider and you're probably going to get none on Ranger. And I think there's a lot of good batting options here. So it's not a game I'm going to go crazy with bats. I do like the pitching here.
That all makes sense to me. And I like Strider too. My problem, Schlong, is I think it looks like, looking at ownership and kind of the betting markets, it seems to me like just the general public thinks that Strider is all the way back to what he was before the injury, especially with the last two games being really good. And just looking at the stuff numbers, the velocity, all that, he's clearly not quite the same pitcher that he was. And it seems at 9,500 that he's almost being treated like he is. So I guess that's my, issue with Strider, is that I don't know. I think maybe he's a little bit overrated at the moment. I still think he's a good play. I do like the Phillies leverage stack call, though, if you're anyone kind of on the same page that I am. And then Schwarber in particular, I think looks really, really good. If you want to go for a singular leverage home run call, I think he's got a good chance. Strider throwing pretty much two pitches, fastball, slider. I think he's going to give up a lot of home runs to left-handed bats, just kind of over the course of the rest of the season. So Schwarber, the guy that I'm looking at most closely. I'm probably not going to play Suarez. Acuna, though, is someone that I definitely want. Just absolutely crushing it right now. Certainly, I think a good play if you're willing to pay up against Suarez. Let's get to the next game on the slate. Schlong, Tampa Bay, and the Baltimore Orioles. This one in Camden Yards. Hot, humid, winds blowing out. I played a ton of these Rays lefties over the last couple of days. Against Eflin yesterday. Can't remember who it was on Friday, but they've been really good. The two Lows, Josh Lowe, Brandon Lau, Jonathan Aranda, Mangum, crushing it right now. I think they could do so again against Dean Kramer. So I like the Rays again here against the Orioles in Camden. And then Taj Bradley going for the Rays. Don't think I'm in on Taj here, but he does have upside from start to start. I could see going in that direction. I could also see playing Orioles left-handed bats against Taj Bradley. So this is a game I think you could play multiple ways. What are you doing, Shalong, with Rays and Orioles here?
Pitching, I think it's such a bad pitching slate. I do think Bradley has a bit of upside here. He's kind of a guy I like to stack against and like play a small amount of, just like to try and hit like his outlier like strikeout games. I don't see a ton of great pitching options here, so I'm fine playing him probably around 5% against like a pretty bad Orioles team. And then Dean Kramer, probably about the same boat. Like he's super cheap if you're trying to fit in bats, like deep tournament play only. Do prefer bats in this game here. It's hot. We've seen the left-handed bats especially crush in this series, and I like them again today. Like you're not breaking the bank on either team. Mm-hmm. My favorite plays would be the Lows and like Henderson, Jackson Holiday, etc. Like
you saw the lefties on both teams that you wanted.
Yeah. And I'm totally fine 5-man stacking this game or picking off like the lefties and do like a 3-man type of deal. I think these teams will come in. They're not like my favorite teams on the slate, but I'm definitely going to have exposure to them here. I think I had between 5 and 10% 5-mans on both teams.
Yeah, I like the Rays side slightly better despite wearing an Orioles hat today. But yeah, I think you can play both sides. We've seen a lot of runs. I mean, what did the game finish yesterday? It was like 22-8 or something. Just a ton of runs in these games. So yeah, Rays and Orioles certainly looks good to me. I'll be back in on Josh and Brandon Lowe and then Jonathan Aranda, my 3 favorite plays on the Rays if you're trying to narrow it down a little bit. Let's get to Toronto and Boston up next. This one in Fenway, going to be hitter-friendly weather in Fenway. Friendly hitters umpire as well. 85 degrees, a little bit of humid, wind blowing out. I think the best hitting weather that they've had in Fenway all season. And we do see these Fenway games, Schlong, go pretty high scoring, it seems like, when the weather finally gets good. In Boston, I could see that today. Walker Buehler going for the Red Sox. I'm not a believer in him. He's been negative DraftKings points in 3 of the last 4 starts. Gets a very high contact Blue Jays team. I did play the Blue Jays yesterday against Giolito, and that did not go well. But I'm willing to go back to him here against Buehler, who I don't believe in really at all. And then Eric Lauer on the other side. On paper, he looks pretty good to me. There's a lot of strikeouts in this Red Sox lineup, but I don't know. I just got a bad feeling about playing Lauer. I do think, math-wise, projection-wise, he looks good, but I'm on the fence on Lauer. So curious where you stand on him, and then what are you doing with the rest of this game, Blue Jays and Red Sox, Shlon?
I want to like Lauer more than I kind of can. I agree with you there. I was getting 15 to 20% of him on runs, and that seems a little bit high to me. And like
it's really good, getting a lot of Eric Lauer in there. It really is.
Yeah. It's not that fun of a click. I'll probably try and be more around 10% on him. I do think this is kind of a bad Boston team now. I've been trying to pick on them as much as possible. It's easier when they're on the West Coast, like playing in like the bad stadiums as opposed to
so many strikeouts in the lineup. I mean, these guys are like 25, 30% up and down on the lineup against left-handed pitching. So that's why we're talking about Lauer.
I kind of like playing kind of both sides here. Like I want to be over on Lauer, and I kind of want to be over on the Red Sox bats, just because it's such good hitting weather, and I do like bats in this game. I like the Toronto side for bats as well. definitely prefer the righties from Boston and kind of everyone from Toronto. Toronto's just a little more expensive at the top of the lineup. Like, you get a super cheap Red Sox stack here that you can pretty much do whatever you want with if you play them. So yeah, I'll probably be, I think Boston was my third highest team, but I'm also going to be over on Lauer. So like, I kind of want him to blow up or have a great game here. Toronto, they're just a little more price prohibitive, just a little harder to get to. I do prefer the Boston bats just because of price, but I like bats here. And then I'm not playing any Walker Buehler. As you mentioned, I have him projected like absurdly low here, and he's not someone that I ever really want to play, and especially in this situation against a low strikeout Toronto team in like a very good hitting conditions.
Yeah, you gotta like Toronto here, even if they they do seem to disappoint a lot. But that top four, Bichette, Barger, Guerrero, Springer, looks really good to me from Toronto. And then I guess maybe I misspoke. Lauer actually, at least from Sabre, not projected well at all. They've got him down fairly low in the point per dollar projections, and then just 1 or 2% owned. They have him projected. Is that?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to play him against Boston here. Like, if you're 10% on him, you're going to be exponentially over.
All right. Well, I guess I'm going to be very over the field.
Well, the thing is, there's not a lot of great options. Like,
there's not that many great options. He's cheap, and no one's playing him. And I do think he could get a lot of strikeouts here. So I'm in on. I guess I'm in on Eric Lauer at that number. People probably afraid of the park factor here, which I get. It could go very south for Lauer, but again, I do think he's absolutely capable of getting 7, 8, 9 strikeouts, which at 2% owned and 7,600 would be pretty nice on this slate. So count me in on Eric Lauer today. Let's go to New York for the A's and the Yankees. Marcus Stroman, pitcher I will not be in on, making his return for the Yankees. He was absolutely dreadful before in his 3 starts before going on the IL. Wasn't great last year. Was getting pummeled in the minor leagues. Seems like they're calling him up out of necessity, out of I don't know, respect for his sizable contract, his track record. But it's been rough for Marcus Stroman. He does have a good matchup here, but I'm on the A's side of this one. I think the A's bats make a ton of sense against Stroman, who I am not at all a believer in, specifically that top 4, Butler, Wilson, Rooker, and my guy Nick Kurtz crushing it right now. I think make for a really good stack. Luis Severino, former Yankee, going back to Yankee Stadium here. Been a bit of a rough ride for Severino. I wouldn't really expect this game to go super well for him against a powerful Yankees lineup. So no pitching here for me, Schlong, all bats. What are you doing with A's and Yankees?
100% agree with you here. I'm a little higher on the Yankee side. They're going to be chalky. They're not that expensive. Like, outside of Judge, you're getting most of these guys like mid 4Ks. Yep. And I definitely expect the Yankees to be the chalk bats of the day. And I think for good reason. Like, this is pretty much the best hitting weather that you're going to get. Wind blowing out, super warm in New York. Want nothing to do with the pitching. I think the A's come in super low. Like, if you get to like even 5 to 10% A stacks, like, I just kind of think that everyone's going to kind of forget about them just because the Yankees are like such big favorites here. Like, you don't really see people playing plus 180 underdogs that often as like a high owned stack. So I do think the A's have a lot of upside here. The Yankees are going to be my highest owned team. I don't really think there's any, for me at least, any getting away from that. Like, I think I have on my 12 high stakes teams, I think I had like 5 Yankee stacks out of them. I don't know if I'll be quite that aggressive, but I'm definitely in on the Yankees today. And I would like to get to the A's as, you're not getting any leverage with them, but you're going to get them at super low ownership. And like, they definitely have slate breaking upside here.
This is interesting. A's lefty's best mini stack on the board. I don't think that's far from the truth, Kevin. So Yeah, I'm absolutely in on the A's, and sometimes Schlong, you look at like the ownership percentages, and all the players you like are high owned, and it's like, all right, I guess we're holding hands with the Fields today, but not today. Nobody on Eric Lauer, nobody on the A's. Maybe we'll get first or last in DFS today. So I'm in on the A's. Like I mentioned, that top four, specifically Nick Kurtz, I think is one of the very best plays on the entire board. Regardless of ownership, even if he was high owned, I would still like him quite a bit. So, yeah, I'll be hoping for runs here. I'll have Yankees too, but does seem like a day to get maybe a little bit contrarian, and I could see the A's absolutely crushing Stroman here, who is just – I really just don't think Stroman has much left at all. So, pretty excited for this A's stack in the Bronx today. To go to Pittsburgh for the Mets and the Pirates – Mike Burrows going for the Pirates here. He's I would say mediocre at best, kind of run-of-the-mill right-handed pitcher. Not in play for me against the Mets. I do think the Mets' bats look pretty good. Obviously not the greatest park for hitting in Pittsburgh, but still that top of the lineup, very dangerous, and they could do a lot of damage against Burrows for sure. Frankie Montas going for the Mets. Pitched well against the Braves, kind of surprisingly to me. But lefties, I think, against Montas are going to perform really well. O'Neal Cruz all the way down to the 6 hole, but I still do like him down there. Horwitz, I guess you could play Adam Frazier. Not a lot of lefty power here other than Cruz, to be honest. But another game where all hitting, no pitching. I'm not playing either of these guys. What are you doing, Schlong, with Mets and Pirates?
I think you could make a case for Frankie Montas against like a really like bad Pirates team here. It's not somewhere I really want to go on this slate. Just trying to look for alternatives to like Strider or Patrick, because I think they're going to come in as like pretty big chalk on this slate, just because there's not a ton of options here.
Give me Lauer over Montas.
I have Lauer higher on than Montas, and the field will definitely be flipped on that. But Montas definitely does make my pool here. I don't really want anything to do with the Pirates bats. I don't want anything to do with Burrows. And then the Mets, I think there's definitely better spots on the slate. I think they kind of profile more as like 2-3 mans, like one-offs. Like Soto's hitting the absolute crap out of the ball right now. And, they obviously have high upside bats, and I always like taking lefties in Pittsburgh more than the righties. So Mets lefties, I'm fine with. It's not a spot that I'm like really gonna attack or anything. This will be one of my lower owned games on the slate here. I know we've been kind of talking up a lot of games here, and you can't get everything. So kind of just hope it's like a 5-4 dinky donk type of game, and no one goes nuts.
Yeah, Ballpark, this doesn't happen very often, but notable today. Ballpark Bell does have PNC Park in Pittsburgh as the 5th best hitting conditions today, with the heat, wind blowing out. And like you said, it does play fine for left-handed power in general, especially today. So that top 3 of the Mets, Lindor, Nimmo, Soto, I think is, and obviously probably include Alonso and McNeil if you're going that far. So yeah, I think I'm talking myself onto the Mets a little bit. Burrows, I don't think is any good. And then wraparound stack in play too. Ronnie Mauricio starting to come around a little bit, showing the power. Massive talent, 2,900, second and third base eligible. If you want to get a lower owned Mets at the Mets stack at the bottom of the order, Mauricio I think makes a lot of sense. Let's get to Cincinnati for the Reds and the Padres. Great American Ballpark as always. We'll play very hitter friendly today. Nick Lodolo going for Cincinnati. Good pitcher, pitching pretty well this year and recently. I don't really think he's in play against this Padres team that just makes a ton of contact. Tough park to pitch in. But I don't love the Padres bats either against Lodolo. Probably mostly avoiding both sides of that matchup. And then Steven Kolek going for San Diego. Really low strikeout arm. Decent pitcher otherwise. But he has been just crushed by left-handed hitters. talked about it the last time he started, almost played a super, super low-owned national stack against him, was kicking myself for not pulling the trigger. But I do think these lefties for the Reds make a lot of sense. Friedel, Ellie De La Cruz, Lux, Will Benson down at the bottom of the order if you want to go there. Lefties have just been killing Kolek, and this is one of the very best parks in baseball for left-handed power. So those guys do make a lot of sense to me in particular. What are you doing, Schlong, with Padres and Reds here?
Normally I love Great American Ballpark, but it's been a super disappointing for a couple games of the series. I've been like pretty over on the Padres here.
Yeah.
And, Lodolo is not really a pitcher like I really want to attack, but I think it's an okay spot for them. I think they come in with decent ownership here. Like they're pretty cheap across the board outside of like Machado and Tatis. I'm likely going to be under on the Padres. Don't really have any interest in pitching. If I had to pitch one, I would pitch Lodolo. Like, I don't think I clicked him out on my 150 or anything, but I'm getting like 2%. Like he's not going to make any of my high stakes teams here. Reds, lefties, I do like that call. I think LA goes super low owned here compared to like his upside. So I like that call. They have cheap righties too. It's a pretty affordable stack for the Reds. Kolek has not been bad, but I don't think it's a bad time to play the Reds here. They're definitely my preferred side of this game, and I would pretty much include Ellie in everything I do with them.
Yeah, I'm saying Ellie. Sabres got him at 7% on. They got Friedel at 3.5%. Will Benson at 1%. Those lefties against Kolek make a lot of sense. I think Ellie, one of the better one-offs on the entire slate, frankly. So with you there, my problem with the Padres, like I don't really want to play left versus left or Rise and Merrill. That doesn't look great to me against Lodolo. And then Machado and Tatis, they profile pretty well, but you're paying for it, right? 5,200, 5,400 against a good pitcher. Yeah, I think I'm out on the Padres for those reasons. But yeah, Great American Ballpark, obviously, a game can go off for a lot of runs at any time. But I'll be going more to the Red side personally. Let's go to Giants and White Sox at Wright Field in Chicago. We've got the longtime veteran Justin Verlander still going out there. Doesn't have the stuff that he used to. Should perform okay here, I think, though, against this White Sox team. It will be very hot in Chicago, so ball will be flying, but still a decent spot for Verlander. To me, 8K is way more than his current talent level, but maybe the matchup makes up for that at least a little bit. And then Jonathan Cannon going for the White Sox here. Giants just haven't done much. I do think, at least on paper, this looks like a pretty good spot for them, but I don't know. I just don't find myself all that excited to play the Giants. Curious where you ended up, Schlong, with Giants and White Sox.
I haven't really been on the Giants a ton this series, and it's kind of worked out so far. They've carried ownership every day, and I expect them to carry ownership here. I just think there's better spots to attack on the slate. I don't love this game in Chicago today quite as much as like the games on the East Coast in terms of hitting weather. Winds blowing in. It is kind of warm. I much prefer like 2-3-man stacks, one-offs, kind of on both sides. I don't absolutely hate like some of these hitters at the top of the order, like Tauchman, Madroth, and Benintendi. I think look okay to me. If you want to get guys at like 1%. The Giants here, if I was playing a lot of them, like I would include Devers in pretty much anything I do. Like I kind of think he's the key here to the Giants having a big game. He hasn't done great since he's been traded, but there are worse spots than Jonathan Cannon. So yeah, not a game I'm going to be very over on. I don't want anything to do with Cannon here in this spot. And then Verlander, not a guy I'm playing a ton of. I'll probably be around like 5% on him. I doubt he makes a ton of my teams. I think there are better alternative options to Patrick and and Strider if you did want to go there.
Yeah, Steve Kreitzen and Corey Brewer, two loyal watchers of the show. Appreciate the support, guys. They're on the Benintendi train, and man, they're not lying. Benintendi's somehow 88th percentile in barrel percentage in major leagues. He's crushing it right now. 3,100 unowned, and in a really good matchup against Verlander, who again just doesn't have very good stuff anymore. So yeah, I'll join. I'll join the people on the Andrew Benintendi train for sure, especially at that low ownership and price number. Looks like a really strong play to me. Let's keep it moving. Chicago and Houston up next, two veteran pitchers here. Framber Valdez going for the Astros. Hasn't been quite as good the last couple of starts. Before that, though, he had a run of 6, 7, 8 starts where he was absolutely fantastic. You are paying for him here if you're using him. $10K against the Cubs. I'm going to go in a different direction, Schlong. I just don't really use pitchers against the Cubs hardly ever. And paying all the way up for Framber doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it is a tough pitching slate. So I could see the case for Framber. Wouldn't shock me to see him have a good game, even against the Cubs. And then Jameson Taillon, another pitcher I was using a lot of just because he was in like the best pitching spots ever for like 8 starts in a row with wind blowing in and cold weather in Wrigley. But now that that's changed, Taillon's results have certainly changed. 2 bad starts in a row for him. Not a bad spot for Taillon here against the essentially all right-handed lineup that the Astros roll out every day. But still, I think there are better spots to go to than Taillon. So I'm mostly out on the pitching here, and I don't think I'm going to play many hitters either. I do think the Cubs are going to have a decent game, but they're expensive, and obviously Framber is a very good pitcher. So kind of out on this game in general. What are you doing, Schlong, with Cubs and Astros?
I think I'm a little more apt to play Framber here than you are. I don't really like playing pitchers against the Cubs, but lefties do profile against them better than right-handed pitching. It's a tough pitching slate. I don't think not anybody, but I don't think Framber comes in very high owned. And, I think he has a pretty wide variance in terms of like what he can do on the mound. Like, I mean, if he's going, they'll let him throw a complete game. Like He has like a super high pitch count at least. I'm kind of looking for reasons to play him as opposed to like reasons not to play him here, just because like I do want alternatives to Strider and Patrick. Like I don't think there's some like lock button combo that I would feel comfortable with as much exposure as I have to them. So, just for that reason, I think that Framber does make my pool probably around 20 to 25% here. He obviously does have upside. Tournament play only for me. So, there is risk in playing guys against the Cubs, which is why I don't love doing it. Not really going to get to any Cubs bats here. They're expensive. It's just like super tough paying like $6K for Tucker or Armstrong over like a Judge today. Lefty. I'm just not really in on the Cubs today here in Houston, and I'm likely not in on the Astros either. I just really hate this lineup right now. Not in on Taillon. Just a game I'm likely going to be under on outside of Framber.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The one exception, or the one play I like on the Astros is rookie Cam Smith, who is absolutely crushing it right now. A massive, massive talent who's young rookie. Sometimes it takes these guys a couple months or a season to kind of finally figure it out. But I think Cam Smith is like a 40-plus home run hitter, maybe as soon as next year, and maybe the pace. So don't sleep on Cam Smith. He's not going to be 3,400 for long. He's the guy that I want on the Astros. Little Cam Smith nugget there. He's going to be very, very good for the Astros for a long time. Dodgers and Royals up next. Needed something from Ohtani yesterday, Schlong, for a nice shipper over on FanDuel. Didn't get it. Took a 0 from Shohei. It was painful. But we're on to today. Tough task for the Dodgers here against a pitcher that's been very good, Chris Bubik, rolling right along. I can't pay $9,300 for him against the Dodgers, but he's been good enough where I think I'm mostly shying away from this Dodgers team. Going to be good hitting weather as it is most places in Kauffman Stadium, and then Robleski, who we used a ton of against the Rockies last time out, was really good in that one. Not going back to him here, I don't think, though, against a high contact Royals team. That was a Rockies special for me for the most part. But he is cheap, 6,300, and I do like the stuff from Robleski. So maybe could make the case for him. Curious where you ended up with Dodgers and Royals.
I don't really play pitchers against the Dodgers. It's just such a tough matchup. I would much rather play Framber than Bubic here.
Agreed.
I don't really think I'm going to what did I have Bubic at here? I still had him at 5 to 10 just because of it's really hard to find alternatives, but that's not a click I feel comfortable making. I do prefer Framber. Dodgers bats, I think are too expensive. They're pretty much max price, and I would prefer an easier matchup to go in on them here. You can't really get to the full stack without playing cheap pitching, and while there is some cheap pitching, I don't think it's great or anything. The Royals always seem to disappoint. It's just a team I've kind of been off. Even if the Sims want to put them in, I just kind of think they're like a broken offense at the moment.
I might have to get on the Robleski train, Shalong. I think I'm in here at 6,300.
I don't think that's the worst idea, to be honest. I just hate playing long relievers.
I wouldn't worry about that. He's gonna give you, I think, 90 plus.
All right. I'm gonna click him in some teams just because it's a really tough pitching slate here. So I'll ride with you on that. Royals are only wit one-offs and small wit plus one or two guys, 2 and 3 mans here for me.
Yeah, and they might use an opener in front of Robleski, but we talked about it in depth on, I believe it was Tuesday's show. Again, I wouldn't be concerned about the pitch count. They're going to let him go. I think they trust him, and I did mention it on Tuesday for sure, but his stuff actually grades out really, really well right now, and he's got some talent for sure. So Robleski, I think, makes a lot of sense. I assume low ownership on him. People don't seem, 5%.
Nobody's gonna be playing him, I don't think.
I'm gonna
even on this bad pitch.
I'm gonna have some very contrarian teams on this. We'll see. We'll see how it ends up going. But I do like Robleski quite a bit here. And I mean, you said it yourself, right? This offense, it's a broken offense, and we get a talented pitcher, low ownership, low price tag. Count me in on Robleski. And count me in on Chad Patrick, too, pitching for the Brewers here. 9,100, a little bit of sticker shock there, Schlong, but you just play anybody against the Rockies, and it almost always works out. I mean, his teammate, I played him yesterday, but drawing a blank on who it was.
What, Priester?
Priester, yeah. Got 11 strikeouts against the Rockies. I mean, it's absurd, but any pitcher can do it. And Chad Patrick, I actually think, is a pretty good pitcher. I think he's underrated. I don't think he's $9,100 worth of good pitching, but against the Rockies, he is. So he's going to be owned. To me, though, I think he's the best play on the slate. I would take him straight up over Spencer Strider, just projection-wise. And, yeah, it's just this Rockies team. There's just an unbelievable amount of strikeouts against this team. Anybody can get 10-plus strikeouts, and Patrick, I think, frankly, has a pretty good chance to approach that. So, to me, best play on the slate, Chad Patrick. Just who the Rockies are. And then Armand Marquez, I've talked a little bit about him recently. I actually think he's pitching pretty well right now. Stuff looks pretty good. And he's 5K in, a reasonable matchup against the Brewers. Not the best matchup in the world, but certainly one that you wouldn't run away from. So there's some cheaper pitchers that I like today, and Marquez is one of them. I think he's an okay play at 5K. Schlong, what are you doing here? Patrick, Marquez, Rockies, and Brewers.
Definitely in on Patrick. I said Strider was my second highest owned pitcher. It's because Patrick's first. I don't care if he's 9,100 here.
Just play Patrick. People just take the free square with the Rockies.
Hunter Goodman's out of the lineup too. It's their best hitter. It's just this Rockies team is so bad. I think that he's pretty much the only pitcher that I feel like super comfortable with. Like I could see Strider getting blown up here. I don't really see Patrick getting blown up here. And I do think that, his upside is comparable to Strider's. Like, I mean, if Strider's on, I do think that Strider has more raw strikeout upside.
I mean, Priest's got 11 Ks, and I think Patrick is a better pitcher. So
yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that, and then I'm like in my head, I remember Priester's start from yesterday, and I was kind of under Priester a bit, not because I didn't like him or anything. He just didn't quite make like my high stakes distribution as much, and that didn't end up well. I don't want to be under on Patrick today. Give me over, even if he's 50% owned, I want to be 70%. It's a tough pitching slate. I think it's the best matchup here. Brewers bats, I think, is a little more interesting. As you said, Marquez has been decent. He's not like a Sensatella type of dude. The Brewers are reasonably priced here. I don't mind them. I do think they come in pretty chalky. Yeah. I think in my 12 high stakes teams, I'll have one or two 5-mans, and probably be under them as a whole. Like I'm not fading them or anything, but it's not my favorite play on the slate here. I would rather attack like the really good, like East Coast weather games.
Yeah. To me, people treat the Rockies kind of like they're the same as the other bad teams, right? Like the White Sox or the Pirates. It's just not even close how much better the matchup is for pitching against the Rockies and even those bad teams. So, absolutely in on Patrick. Got a question here. We can answer this one. Valdez, Strider, Suarez. Which pitcher would you take for SP2? Well, we did just maybe you're already on the Patrick train. Do you have a preference between those three, Schlong, Valdez,
Strider? If you're worried about like the Strider Patrick combination being too chalky, I would be okay playing like Patrick Valdez. Just to get a little different. Like, I mean, it also depends what stack you're playing. Like if you're playing like a low owned 5-man, then I would not worry about pitcher ownership at all. But like say you're playing the Yankees, Strider Patrick, I think that's a little chalky on the slate.
Yeah, and Marquez. Overall numbers look bad for him. I do think he's turned a little bit of a corner over the last month or so. So I will mix him in a little bit, not going crazy with Marquez, but I do think a reasonable play today. Let's get to the last game on the slate. Seattle Mariners, Texas Rangers. This one in Texas will play pretty neutral park, especially, most of these parks are very hitter friendly today. This one, of course, indoors in the climate controlled dome in Texas. It'll be Luis Castillo going for the Mariners. Talked a lot about the Twins lefties against him in his last start. That came through. And Castillo, when you take him out of Seattle and you put him against left-handed bats, go south for Castillo pretty quickly. So I really like the two guys at the top of the lineup, the two lefties, Josh Smith and specifically Corey Seager. I played him against Gilbert, and then was that yesterday? Yeah, home run, hit one on Friday too against it was Wu yesterday and Gilbert on Friday. But yeah, Seager swinging it really well. You'll get him at like 2 or 3% owned at a cheap price point too. So one of my favorite one-offs there, Corey Seager. Jack Leiter, I think is, in play. The numbers for him are ugly, Schlong, but he is talented at least. He is cheap, and he does get a high strikeout matchup and a good place to pitch at home against Seattle. To me, Leiter makes some sense on the slate. What are you doing with Mariners and Rangers?
I don't mind Leiter. I think he's my favorite cheap option here. It's not like a pretty click, but it's a way to get different. I do prefer him to Castillo here. It's obviously pretty boom or bust. Like the Mariners are a dangerous team, but they strike out a ton. I don't hate playing like a Mariners 5-man as well. I talked about being like over on like the Strider side or on both sides of the both sides of the coin on Strider, and I kind of like being over on the Mariners and leader here. Leader will come in probably around 15% for me. Should be a pretty significant buy there. Rangers offense, I don't really like here, but Seager at 3.9K against Castillo, you can definitely sign me up for. I do like that as a one-off at shortstop here, and I'm probably gonna be under on Castillo. I just don't really like him in this spot. I think there are better alternatives to Patrick and Strider as we've gone over. So, prefer the Rangers side here.
Yeah, Castillo off the board for being going to get in as much Corey Seager as I can. And yeah, I do think the Mariners stack is, even though I do like Leiter some too, he is extremely blowout prone with how wild he can be. So yeah, Mariners obviously make some sense too. Can play both sides of that matchup, Leiter versus a powerful but strikeout happy Mariners team. That's all 11 games long. Let's go back over pitching stacks, and then we'll get on out of here and get those cores and lineups in. Your preferred pitching combination on DraftKings today, what are you looking at?
Strider, Patrick. If you're playing a chalky 5-man, I would get off Strider for probably Valdez.
Yeah, to me, Patrick is the freest square at pitching on the slate. I'll be taking that free square on the majority of my teams. I do like Strider some, but I'm going with you know what? I'm going back to my man Wrobleski down there at 6,300 against the Royals. Like the stuff. Dodgers trust him. Decent matchup. Good chance at a win. I think Wrobleski could come through again for us like he did on Tuesday. Schlong, give us your top 2 stacks on the slate.
Let me go with the Yankees and give me – oh, God. It's kind of the Yankees and everyone else for me today. I think my second highest owned team here is Toronto.
Yeah. I will go back to the Rays against Dean Kramer, specifically those lefties, Josh Lowe, Brandon Lau, and Aranda, my 3 favorite. And then give me the Athletics against Marcus Stroman, specifically that top 4, Lawrence Butler, Wilson, Rooker, and Kurtz looks very good against a pitcher in Stroman, who I just don't think has much left in the tank at this point. All right, so we'll get out of here a little bit early. Got cores, write-ups, questions to answer in the Discord for Run Pure Sports members. The show will be back tomorrow at the normal time, Game Log Mondays with me, JT, and Big T. Always a fun show. I'm sure we'll see many of you guys there. Good luck to everybody in your contests today. And until tomorrow, he's Schlong. I'm DC. We're out of here.